Tonight, expanding surveillance for a dangerous form of avian flu found in dairy cattle. The outbreak in the U.S. concerning Canadian scientists.
The best thing we can do is to prevent the virus from having an opportunity to jump to humans.
The enhanced testing of milk sold on store shelves. The growing grocery boycott as shoppers look for alternatives to big box retailers.
At this point, we're going to be part of a solution.
Also, allegations of widespread torture in facilities holding suspected Islamic State fighters in Syria.
I'm in this battle to get him out of the hellhole that he's in.
A mother's renewed hope to bring her son home. Plus, setting sights on the winner's circle at the Kentucky Derby. The photo finish and the Canadian connection to this famous race.
They're off in the Kentucky Derby.
CTV National News with Heather Butts.
Good evening. Canadian officials insist the milk supply in this country is safe as they expand surveillance for a dangerous form of avian flu spreading within dairy cattle south of the border. The U.S. has now reported its first human infection linked to those outbreaks. It has some scientists here concerned and now taking extra precautions with enhanced testing of cows and products before they hit store shelves. CTV's Colton Prale reports.
From farm to table, Canada is keeping a new, more watchful eye for bird flu after outbreaks of the H5N1 virus at farms across the United States. Late Friday, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency announced it would begin testing milk at the retail level for fragments of the virus.
Testing of milk is a good first step because it will give us sort of a landscape level view of whether or not it's likely that we have any virus in the country.
Health Canada has also started testing imported American cows for the virus and plans to increase voluntary testing for Canadian cows over the coming days. Experts say they're paying especially close attention after the first case of cow-to-human transmission was confirmed this week at a farm in Texas.
When a virus gains the ability to go from one species to another, especially once it's able to infect mammals, because we are mammals, it makes it much more likely that it's going to start infecting humans and then having human-to-human spread.
There have been fewer than 1,000 human cases of the virus in the past 2 decades, but experts say the mortality rate in those cases is extremely concerning and in line with other influenzas like Ebola, making monitoring measures all the more pressing.
The best thing we can do is to prevent the virus from having an opportunity to jump to humans because it's not something that we want to find out.
Canadian health officials say milk in grocery stores is safe to drink and that the virus is not a food safety issue. So far, there have been no confirmed cases of avian flu in Canadian cattle. Heather.
CTV's Colton Prale in Ottawa. London Drugs is gradually reopening some of its stores 7 days after abruptly closing because of a cyber attack. The retail and pharmacy chain temporarily shut down all of its 79 locations across BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. The company says an investigation found no evidence that any customer databases have been compromised. Customer frustration over food prices and grocery giant profits had many people taking a turn down a different store aisle today. A social media campaign targeting Loblaws is sparking conversations about short-term and long-term solutions, from markets to food co-ops. CTV's Tony Grace has a closer look.
At this busy market in Toronto, many shoppers are singing the same tune about keeping it local.
We need to support small businesses. I do not support Loblaws and big stores.
It gives other people a chance to compete in a world that's very, very regulated.
An online forum that sparked a call for a month-long Loblaw boycott over high prices and profits, now surpassing 72,000 members. Loblaw leaders call some of the criticism misguided, saying it's doing all it can to keep prices low. Company CEO Per Bank met with organizer Emily Johnson on Thursday. A company spokesperson today called it a productive conversation, saying, "We're listening," and thought it was important to hear her concerns in person. Johnson posted today that the hour-long meeting was calm and respectful, but confirmed the boycott call is still on and pledged to answer more questions soon.
It's really inspiring to see folks, the social media movement around the boycott happening.
This food co-op in Toronto has seen its membership jump in recent weeks to 750 people, but it's been around for more than 50 years.
We're not just an alternative to Loblaws and the bigger supermarkets at this point, but we're going to be part of a solution.
Believing in this climate, collective ownership, a non-profit concept, and direct relationships with producers are key.
We don't see success as growing the karma empire. We see success as proving that this model is still sustainable in today's world.
For some, the solution may also lie in looking outside our borders.
I don't see why we shouldn't invite some more companies, if that's what it takes, to get into the food market.
In the meantime, the conversation surrounding the Loblaw boycott campaign also continues. Today, the organizer called her sit-down with the CEO the first step in a journey that may continue with another meeting before the end of this month. Tony Grace, CTV News, Toronto.
An escalation today in a dispute between WestJet and its mechanics. The airline has given the union representing its maintenance engineers 72 hours to reach a new contract agreement before members are barred from coming to work. WestJet's CEO says in the event of a lockout, the company would operate under a reduced schedule, with impacted customers notified and given options to change or cancel their bookings. Both sides say they're hopeful to reach a deal soon. Students across the country are digging in and staying put at encampments set up on campuses in several cities. Protesters with the pro-Palestinian movement are promising to remain and put pressure on institutions with investment ties to Israel. CTV's Jeremy Sharon has the latest.
In the nation's capital, rallying in support of a now familiar commitment on campus from pro-Palestinian protesters.
We're ready to be here until we get what we want, and I'm very proud to be able to say that with everyone being on board with it.
Now days into a demonstration at the University of Ottawa.
We really want to put the pressure and the focus back on Gaza and what's happening in Palestine.
In Toronto, students digging in and doubling down as well, with support from some faculty members at U of T.
I think it'll last until the university administration realizes that it needs to set up an ad hoc committee to speak with the students about their demands.
The demands are clear here and across the country, a call for transparency from their institutions when it comes to investments, and a promise to cut ties with any connections to Israel.
We've received several pieces of communication from them. Not one of them addressed our demands. What they have sent us is various sort of conditions and warnings on our right to protest.
Encampments have formed on campuses across the country and continue through the weekend. But it all began in the U.S., where it has led to clashes between police and protesters. Today, officers moved in at the University of Virginia.
We see what has happened in other places, UCLA, Columbia, when the university administration gives up on talking to its own students.
Amid ongoing protests, graduation ceremonies have moved ahead, but not without disruptions. State police removed pro-Palestinian demonstrators from the University of Michigan's commencement ceremony today. Now, protests here in Canada have so far gone ahead without police intervention, and universities have made no real attempts so far to get protesters out. Heather?
Jeremy, thank you. Overseas talks in Cairo are intensifying as negotiators work towards a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. In Tel Aviv, thousands of protesters gathered, calling for an immediate ceasefire that would secure the release of Israeli hostages. Israel has downplayed the likelihood of a full end to the war, something Hamas says should be part of any truce. Ukraine's second largest city has come under attack from Russian missiles and drones targeting critical infrastructure. Rescue workers today battling massive fires caused by debris from intercepted strikes in Kharkiv. Attacks on the region have intensified in recent months, with newly released drone footage from a nearby town shedding light on the extent of the destruction. More than 50 people are confirmed dead and dozens are still missing in the worst flooding to hit southern Brazil in more than 80 years. Crews rescued stranded residents, including children, from rooftops as heavy rain swallowed roads and towns in Rio Grande do Sul. The deluge destroying bridges, triggering landslides, and forcing the indefinite closure of an international airport. And more than 400 people have been rescued from floodwaters in Texas as severe weather pummels parts of the state. Water engulfed entire neighborhoods around Houston. Officials in East Texas tonight warning residents the situation could get worse, with more heavy rain expected to fall tomorrow. Now to a daring rescue from a raging fire in Kenosha, Wisconsin, all captured on a body camera. A police officer is seen here sprinting towards a house engulfed in flames. A neighbor already pulled one person from the fire. Officers frantically rescued more people, including a man in a wheelchair. Another incredible moment on the track at the 150th running of the Kentucky Derby, which produced a fabulous finale.
It is Mystic Dan down toward the inside with the lead in the final 16th. Forever Young, Sierra Leone is coming. These three coming down to the wire. Who's it going to be? Oh, it's a photo of the Derby. Oh, it's a photo. Was it Mystic Dan or was it Sierra Leone?
Mystic Dan barely beat two other horses by a nose in an epic photo finish. Well, two Canadian contenders were also on the track, with one of them pulling off an impressive showing. Here's CTV's Kamal Karamali on the sporting spectacle.
They're off.
The pounding of hooves had hearts racing.
It was amazing. It was so close.
Here at Toronto's Woodbine racetrack.
It was great for me because I think I won on Mystic Dan.
Aboard Mystic Dan, winning the Kentucky Derby.
Although it was an American rider who won the coveted Kentucky Derby trophy,
oh, it's a photo of the Derby.
Everyone here had their eye on a jockey who calls Canada home. Kazushi Kimura from Japan now lives in Toronto.
It's huge for the local racing community. You know, everybody gets to back one of our hometown stars.
CTV spoke to Kimura this week before he left for his second appearance at Churchill Downs in Louisville, Kentucky. Last year, he was a call-up. This year, he received a formal invitation.
Right now, I'm feeling like I represent Canada and represent Japan.
A stunning fifth-place finish, but happy to make big strides at just 24 years old.
You come into the race seemingly an outsider in the public opinion, and then the horse ran an amazing race. Everyone's pretty happy.
There was also another outsider representing the red maple leaf at the Run for the Roses. Not a jockey, but a horse, bred by a father-daughter duo from BC.
A lot of pressure with the local team here. Getting a lot of stares.
From foal to fierce competitor, named Grand Mo the First, came in close to last, 18th in the big race. For these BC horse breeders, this isn't their first rodeo.
Justify has won the Kentucky Derby!
Raising 2018 Kentucky Derby winner Justify.
Will we ever be able to repeat that? I don't think so, but we'll keep trying.
Which could happen in the blink of an eye in the fastest 2 minutes in sports. Kamal Karamali, CTV News, Toronto.
Coming up, holding out hope.
He told me that he had been tortured.
The pleas from an Ottawa mother desperate for her son to return home. Plus, a crash drawing criticism over driverless cars. An Ottawa mother has renewed hope her son will be freed from a Syrian prison following a revealing human rights report. Amnesty International has documented widespread abuses, including torture and deprivation of medical care. Sally Lane hopes it will compel the federal government to repatriate her son. CTV's Judy Trin reports.
It has been 7 years since Canadian Jack Letts was jailed in northeast Syria. He traveled there from the United Kingdom as an 18-year-old after converting to Islam.
He was in Syria because he was a stupid kid who thought that he was doing his bit in the Arab Spring.
Letts is among more than 50,000 people alleged to have ISIS ties and arrested by Kurdish forces. When the Syrian civil war ended, women and children were put in detention camps, the men thrown in prison. Now, in a new report, Amnesty International has found most were arbitrarily detained, that many are victims, not militants, and all are subjected to rampant abuse.
Mass death, systematic torture, a complete denial of the basic precepts of due process and fair trials.
For the first time, male prisoners told researchers they were being beaten with steel rods and tortured by electric shocks. Sally Lane references Amnesty's report in a letter she hand-delivered to the Foreign Affairs Minister earlier this week. Consular officials doubted her claims that Letts was abused when he was first detained.
He told me that he had been tortured. He said that he tried to kill himself in solitary confinement.
Currently, there are at least 23 Canadians detained in northeast Syria. The federal government says it will bring home the children, but not their foreign mothers. Canada has also refused to repatriate 4 men, including Letts.
Now that we have that kind of information in front of the Canadian government, frankly, there is no excuse for them waiting one single day more.
Last August, Alex Neve was part of an unofficial delegation that visited Letts in prison. He showed him this video.
This is where you'll come. This is where I live now in Ottawa.
In return, Lane received this letter from her son. It's a source of motivation and pain.
As long as Jack's imprisoned, I can't live a normal life, and I feel every moment of my day I'm in this battle to get him out of the hellhole that he's in.
Global Affairs is planning to send a plane to bring home the remaining children soon, but has not said when. Meanwhile, the 4 Canadian men have asked the Supreme Court to reconsider its decision not to hear their arguments for appeal. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
Still ahead, pumping the brakes on a smart car feature. A potentially dangerous driverless app and a car owner's quest for answers. At least 20 cars were smashed during an early morning crime spree northwest of Toronto.
Multiple people on our street, their windshields or their windows from their vehicles got smashed in.
Residents awoke to find shattered glass strewn across car seats and driveways with some items inside their vehicles allegedly stolen. They say it isn't the first time the street has been targeted, but never to this extent.
Lots of cars have been stolen on the street, off of the driveway. It's getting out of hand.
It follows a similar incident nearby on Wednesday, which left 16 cars damaged. As self-driving cars become a reality, they open up a new world of transit possibilities and potential problems. A Montreal man was trying out a new feature on his Tesla when things took a bad turn. Now he's warning other drivers to slow down before activating features. CTV's Denise Roberts reports.
George Gazul bought his Tesla 2 years ago. Not only does he love the style, but its features.
And really the selling point for me was like the fact that you get software updates and you always get new features on the car.
The latest downloadable feature is Smart Summon, which allows you to move your car to you, using your phone's GPS as a target destination. That's what Gazul was doing on April 10th in the Fairview parking lot when he summoned his parked car to come pick him up.
When I saw it moving, initially it took a sharp right turn instead of pulling out of the spot first.
He tried to deactivate it, but it didn't stop in time, and his car ended up sideswiping the car beside it. The estimate for the damages to both cars was several $1,000s. Gazul contacted Tesla since he said the accident was caused by their technology.
They just go say, deal with your insurance. This is not our problem. Like, you activated it.
And his insurance told him he was at fault. What's worse, he's since found out it isn't even legal to use this feature in public spaces in Quebec. George Inney says it's up to drivers to know the rules of the road.
The rules were written before the technology existed, and I guess Quebec's position is they're not changing the rule or even their interpretation of it.
But he says it's also up to companies like Tesla to inform people before they test out new features.
The issue would be where is the ethical, moral compass of a company that sells you a feature that is no good to you, where the car is going to be registered, and doesn't bother to tell you.
Innie says at least no one was hurt in this accident. It could have been much worse. Tesla did not respond to our request for an interview. Gazul, meanwhile, is paying for the damages out of his own pocket so his premiums don't go up. He says he feels taken for a ride.
There's been no sort of communication about where to use it and where not to use it.
And wants to warn other Tesla drivers before they make the same mistake. Denise Roberts, CTV News.
And there was no mistaking what popped up at Miami's international airport. Security officers found a slithering surprise at a checkout. The Transportation Security Administration released these pictures showing a small sunglasses bag containing 2 snakes found hidden in a passenger's pants. The snakes were handed off to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. Well, after the break, teeing up for summer. Golf tourism has businesses across the country scoring a hole-in-one. Golf tourism has become a global phenomenon. Players get to enjoy their love of the game while exploring new places. And with the season now in full swing, this type of travel is again gaining momentum at courses across Canada. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth tees it up for us.
A sign of spring and summer, a perfect fit for seasonal tourism.
They kind of almost go hand in hand. You know, a lot of people want to come to see Nova Scotia or maybe other Atlantic provinces.
At Cabot Cape Breton, golf business has spiked more than 20% since 2021.
Through COVID, people had an opportunity to pick up golf because it was one of the activities you were allowed to do outdoors.
People traveling for golf domestically and from outside the country is providing a major tourism boost across Canada. Golf course and country club revenue climbed almost $1 billion in Canada from 2016 to 2022.
Golf is huge in Canada, representing over $14 billion in GDP. The tourism portion of golf is $2.5 to $3 billion.
Ontario alone has more than 800 golf courses.
Very few of those golf courses are over $200 or $300 a round, which means that people can come to Ontario from the United States, from other countries, and they can play golf very, very cost effectively.
Kendall Clancy says top-rated golf courses attract visitors. So does the promise of an experience that extends beyond the game itself.
When you can share this experience of traveling the Cabot Trail, seeing something that's on your bucket list with an exceptional couple of rounds.
It leads to a thriving golf industry and a busy growing element of tourism in Canada. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
That is our newscast for this Saturday night. I'm Heather Butts. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Todd Vanderhayden is sitting in for me tomorrow. Good night.